As the grand chamber of Harmony Station erupted in applause, a chilling broadcast hijacked the screens, silencing the galaxy's leaders. On display was the young alien prince, held in chains, his captors smirking cruelly behind him. At the edge of the crowd, Jan Rambo's hand tightened into a fist, his eyes burning with a fierce resolve to launch a rescue that could ignite a war or forge a peace. The grand chamber of Harmony Station buzzed with the low hum of 100 alien dialects as species from across the galaxy gathered for the peace summit. Amidst this cacophony of interstellar diplomacy, Jan Rambo, a human clad in the unassuming garb of a diplomat, surveyed the room with a critical eye. His past as a military tactician was hidden behind a calm demeanor, but his gaze missed nothing from the security droids patrolling the aisles to the nervous twitch of a junior envoy from the outer rim. Jan's attention was suddenly drawn to the main display as it flickered unexpectedly before being hijacked by a chilling broadcast. The image of the young alien prince, a symbol of peace for the Zenithar kingdom, appeared on the screen, his regal features marred by distress as he was displayed in chains, a grim trophy held by the militant Kryl faction. The silence that fell over the summit was palpable. The demands are clear, a harsh voice cut through the chamber, emanating from the speakers. Cede the territories to Kryl control, or the prince's execution will be broadcast galaxy-wide. As murmurs of shock and outrage swirled around him, Jan felt a familiar fire ignite within. Turning to his aide, a wiry Cygnian named T-Res, he muttered under his breath, "Prepare the team. We're not going to negotiate with terrorists." "Why us, Jane?" T-Res asked, her voice low as they retreated to the shadows of the back corridor. "The coalition will be in an uproar. This could start a war." Jan's eyes hardened, his jaw set. "Because we can handle it, and because it's right. I've seen too many good beings suffer under the Kryl's oppression. The prince is the key to peace. We save him, we save hope." Within hours, Jan assembled his team in a nondescript meeting room deep within the bowels of Harmony Station. They were an eclectic crew, chosen for their unique abilities and their discretion. Lyra, an ex-naval pilot from the liquid worlds of Aquarius, who could outfly any star chaser, Mork, a burly Xandarian with a penchant for explosives, and Dr. Eli Voss, a brilliant human strategist and medis. As they huddled around the holo table, displaying the layout of the Kryl stronghold, Jan outlined the plan with meticulous detail. "We go in quiet, we get the prince, we get out before they know what hit them. Lyra, you'll handle extraction. Mork, you're with me on the front line. Dr. Voss, I need you ready for anything." Each member nodded, understanding the weight of the mission. They were not just fighting for the prince, they were fighting for the possibility of peace. "Remember," Jan concluded, his voice a resonant command that filled the room, "we're doing what many won't. We may have to walk into the dark to lead others into the light. Stay sharp, stay focused, and watch each other's backs." The stealth shuttle, cloaked against the black of space, made its silent approach towards the darkened asteroid that housed the Kryl stronghold. Inside, Jan Rambo and his team readied themselves, each member cloaked in shadows and tension. Lyra's steady hands guided the shuttle through fields of debris, her eyes never leaving the radar. Approaching drop zone, Lyra whispered, her voice barely a ripple in the quiet intensity of the cockpit. "Visibility's nearly zero." Relying on sensors, Jan nodded, his focus sharp. "Mork, check your gear. We're going in silent, but stay ready for loud." Mork, his massive frame laden with both explosives and a grim smile, patted his vest. "Born ready, boss." The shuttle hovered silently near a cavernous opening on the asteroid's surface. This was their entry point, chosen for its minimal security, a blind spot Jan had insisted they could exploit. "Go time," Jan said succinctly, leading the charge as they disembarked into the asteroid's shadowy innards. The passage was narrow, walls rough and uneven. Jan led with a practiced stealth, his movements a blend of shadows and silence. Behind him, the team followed suit, a ghostly procession moving deeper into enemy territory. They reached a security checkpoint, unmanned, but for a lone droid, its sensors sweeping lazily. Dr. Voss, with a small device in hand, stepped forward. A few clicks later, the droid powered down, slumping against the wall. "Nice work, Doc," Jan murmured, pressing forward. Their path wound deeper into the stronghold, the air growing staler with each step. Suddenly, Lyra halted, a hand raised. She knelt, examining the ground before whispering, "Pressure mines. New tech. One wrong step, and—" "We get it," Mork interjected softly, kneeling beside her. Together, they worked, disarming the mines with deft precision, a ballet of nerves and skill. As they cleared the minefield, the corridor ahead opened into a larger chamber. Jan paused, signaling a halt. He pulled a compact viewer from his belt, peering around the corner. The room was filled with Kryl soldiers, the prince visible in a transparent energy cell at the far end. "Change of plans," Jan whispered, turning to his team. "We can't sneak past that. We take them quietly, as many as we can before they sound the alarm." They dispersed, finding cover behind the sparse industrial crates scattered around the room. Jan counted down with his fingers. 3, 2, 1. Silently, they sprang into action. Lyra's tranquilizer darts found their marks, sending guards slumping to the ground. Mork, surprisingly graceful for his size, dispatched 2 more in silent combat. Dr. Voss covered their advance, a stun gun in his hands. But the silent takedown unraveled when a lone guard, not as deeply asleep as his comrades, reached for the alarm. Jan lunged, tackling him to the ground in a swift, silent struggle that ended with the guard unconscious. Breathing heavily, Jan looked up at the prince, who watched wide-eyed from his cell. Jan approached, his toolkit in hand. "Hang tight, Your Highness. We're getting you out of here." The corridors of the Kryl stronghold hummed with the low thrum of the asteroid's core reactors as Jan and his team, with the alien prince in tow, navigated back towards the shuttle. The prince moved with an agility surprising for someone who'd just been freed from confinement, his eyes sharp and scanning, a testament to his royal training. "Stay close and keep your head down," Jan whispered, leading with a cautious pace. His senses were on high alert, the weight of their still uncertain escape pressing down like the cold metal walls around them. As they rounded a corner, Dr. Voss suddenly held up a hand, signaling a stop. He extended a small, antenna device into the air. Its screen flickered ominously. "We've got incoming," he murmured, his voice tight with tension. Several heat signatures, fast approaching. Mork, rear guard. Lyra, with the prince. "Move." Jan's commands sliced through the tension like a blade. They quickly rearranged their formation, preparing for the confrontation they had hoped to avoid. It wasn't long before the first of the Kryl soldiers appeared, their armor clanking menacingly against the metal floor. Mork met them head-on, his large frame a barrier between the soldiers and the rest of the team. Each punch and block he delivered was a calculated effort to buy time. Meanwhile, Jan and Lyra provided cover, firing stun shots that dropped the advancing Kryl in silent heaps. But as each fell, more seemed to take their place, a relentless tide of armored hostility. "Keep moving," Jan shouted, pushing the prince and Lyra ahead. The corridor blurred into a maelstrom of flashing lights and shadowed figures as they moved, the sounds of Mork's grunts and the zaps of stun guns echoing off the walls. Suddenly, a sharp explosion rocked the hallway behind them. Mork had used one of his charges, sealing the corridor and halting the Kryl's advance, but at a cost. Smoke and debris filled the air, and when it cleared, Mork was nowhere to be seen. "Where's Mork?" Lyra's voice was edged with panic, her eyes darting back to the blockade. "We have to go. Now." Jan's voice was firm, his decision clear even as his gaze lingered on the rubble. They needed to survive, to complete the mission for everyone's sake. With heavy hearts they continued, the weight of their loss a new companion. As they neared the hangar, Dr. Voss, his medical scanner in hand, suddenly paused, examining a control panel by a sealed door. "Wait," he said, frowning. "I can reroute power here, create a distraction. Buy us some time." "Do it," Jan said, checking his weapon. Every second mattered. Voss's fingers flew over the panel, and within moments, alarms blared throughout the stronghold, a cacophony of sirens that masked their final push to the shuttle. As they sprinted into the hangar, the shuttle loomed ahead, a beacon of hope. They piled in, Lyra firing up the engines, while Jan manned the turret, covering their retreat, as Kryl forces flooded into the hangar. The shuttle's doors sealed with a hiss, and with a powerful thrust, they were shooting through the asteroid's tunnels, out into the star-studded black of space. As the adrenaline of their escape began to ebb, the shuttle's cabin was filled with a heavy silence. Jan met the prince's gaze in the reflection of the window, the stars beyond a stark backdrop to their grim resolve. "We'll come back for him," Jan promised, the unspoken vow hanging between them as they set a course back to Harmony Station, their mission far from over. The cold void of space enveloped the shuttle as it hurtled away from the Kryl asteroid. Inside, the tense silence was broken only by the hum of the engines and the occasional beep from the cockpit where Lyra navigated through a field of debris, her eyes fixed on the star charts. Jan stood behind her, watching the radar for any sign of pursuit. His face was set, the lines of worry pronounced under the dim cabin lights. He turned to look at the prince, who was quietly observing Earth's representative, his face a mask of royal composure tempered with concern. "Will they follow us?" the prince finally asked, his voice steady despite the chaos they had just escaped. Jan nodded gravely. "They will, and they'll want to make an example out of all of us. But we won't let that happen." His voice, firm and reassuring, seemed to anchor the young alien prince to a newfound resolve. Dr. Voss checked his medical equipment, securing it against the possibility of a rough ride. "We need to be ready for anything. The Kryl won't give up their prize easily." As if on cue, the shuttle shuddered violently, alarms blaring through the cabin. "We've got company," Lyra shouted over the noise, her fingers flying across the control panel, evading the incoming fire from a Kryl pursuit ship that had just appeared on their tail. "Get us out of here, Lyra," Jan barked, moving to the weapons console. He fired back, a series of controlled bursts that lit up the darkness of space with bright flashes of destructive energy. The chase was desperate. Lyra's skills kept them ahead, but just barely. The Kryl ship was faster, its weapons more advanced. Every evasion maneuver drew heavily on the shuttle's dwindling energy reserves. "We can't keep this up forever," Lyra yelled, swerving to avoid a barrage of enemy fire that rocked the shuttle, sending sparks flying from the dashboard. Jan's mind raced. He needed a plan, a way to end this chase without losing their lives or freedom. His eyes caught the asteroid field they were approaching. "Lyra, head into the asteroid field. It's our only chance." But the odds, she started to protest, "are better than being sitting ducks." Jan interrupted, his decision final. With a skilled hand, Lyra steered them into the treacherous terrain. The shuttle weaved between massive rocks, each turn and dodge a brush with destruction. The Kryl ship hesitated, then followed, determined not to lose their quarry. Jan watched the pursuing ship struggle with the larger asteroids, their pilot less adept at navigating the hazardous environment. He waited for the right moment, then turned to Dr. Voss. "Prepare the EMP. We're going to need it." On Jan's command, Dr. Voss activated the electromagnetic pulse device. The timing had to be perfect. As they cleared the asteroid field, Jan hit the launch button. The EMP, a last resort weapon, detached from the shuttle and drifted back toward their pursuer. With the threat neutralized, the shuttle sped away, the tension gradually easing as they put distance between themselves and their disabled foe.